It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. Many innovations for the agriculture industry show promise in the lab and controlled small plot settings, but fall short when it comes to capturing complete data from the field. From the start, Intent built its business on bringing efficiency and effectiveness to field trials, helping clients reach their business goals. Since then, Intent has unveiled its InVision software, which works in conjunction with Intent's farmer trials network of more than 1,500 growers to maximize data collection and quality. Today, Intent's sole focus remains the same, to equip agribusiness with better data. But the manner in which Intent is able to collect, interpret, and model that data is light years ahead of what was previously thought possible. To learn more about Intent, visit intent.ag. That's Intent, INTENT.ag. Welcome to North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Our guest today is a public affairs specialist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Bio and Agri-Defense Facility, NBAF, in Manhattan, Kansas. As part of NBAF's communication team, she works to connect NBAF scientists with the public and especially to the local and agricultural communities to build trust and communicate NBAF's mission, accomplishments, and safety measures. She has a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture Communications and a minor in biology from Kansas State University. Today, we're going to discuss the new NBAF facility in Manhattan, Kansas. I would like to welcome today Stephanie Jacques. Welcome, Stephanie, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So you spoke to our group, our American Agri Women group in Manhattan, Kansas last month, and your presentation was so well received and just really interesting. It's not really what producers think about every day is these high security labs that where a lot of medicine is developed, and the threats of diseases are tested and mitigated. And it was just really neat part of agriculture that is kind of hidden, that we don't see every day, right? So it was really interesting. But before we start talking about the facility, let's talk about a bit about your background and how you came to work for NBAF.
Yeah. So like you said, I got my degree in agricultural communications from Kansas State University. I had originally wanted to go into biology too. So I had a minor in biology to go along with that. To take it back a little bit, my family owns a farm in kind of northeast Kansas area. And I grew up spending a lot of weekends and summers, a lot of summers there, just playing on the farm. I did 4-H in that county and showed cattle. But then I would spend my school years going to school in the Kansas City area. And I noticed such a disconnect between, agricultural knowledge and when people would buy their food from the grocery store. There was just this disconnect. And so I really found a passion in trying to connect those two populations to better understand each other. And so that's one of the reasons why I kind of got into agricultural communications. So then fast forward, I've completed my degree in agricultural communications, and I went to go serve the Kansas Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom. Got an opportunity to really do that, to showcase agriculture in the schools, create some educational products and some marketing tools for that program. And then switched to Kansas State University's Division of Biology, and had an opportunity to look at the communication side of the biology sector. And then forward into the Kansas State University's Division of Communications and Marketing. So there I had a wealth of experience dealing with science communication, internal communication, which is critical, had some opportunities to do agricultural communication, and then even some risk communications and crisis communications preparatory work. So it really became full circle when this opportunity opened up at NDAP, and I got to use the full array of experiences. Wow. And really get to put this into practice to help the public understand the mission of NBAF and its safety and security features, because to me, it gives the same peace of mind to the public if we can communicate in a transparent fashion. They deserve to know the safety and security protocols and procedures that we have here at NBAF that keep ourselves and our families safe. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What a great background. I love talking to people who started out on the farm, and you're so right about the divide between public and the farm, of course. And it's cool that, like you said, you're full circle where now you're actually communicating back to the farm as well. So yeah. That's really neat. I didn't know that from, you obviously didn't talk about it yourself during your presentation. So that's really cool. So can you provide an overview of NBAF, of the facility, its mission within the USDA, and I guess kind of also the timeline of this project?
Sure. Yeah. So NBAF is a next generation laboratory facility. So scientists can study and diagnose animal diseases that fall into three categories. The first one being transboundary or foreign animal diseases. So that means diseases that can enter the U.S. from another country. Foot and mouth disease is one example of that. I think that's relatively well known. The second category is emerging diseases. So these are diseases that are new or not well known, things that are coming up into becoming more prevalent. And then zoonotic diseases. So this means they have the potential to spread from animals to humans. So NBAF will be a critical component of USDA's priority to develop vaccines and countermeasures for these diseases, as well as early detection of diseases that threaten our livestock, other animals, and food from our nation's farms. And then through these initiatives, USDA will expand its support of global health and food security. And then you asked about timeline. So the Department of Homeland Security and then USDA collaborated to look at sites around the United States to replace the Plum Island Animal Disease Center in New York. So that site selection process took from about 2006 to 2009. And then site preparation began in Manhattan, Kansas in 2010. And DHS started construction on supporting campus buildings. So our central utility plant the construction started in 2013. And then DHS hosted a groundbreaking for the main laboratory facility that I'm in now in 2015. And then USDA just hosted our official ribbon cutting back in May of 2023. So now we are starting some scientific activities, but we're starting them in phases. And that phase process begins with low risk, common science practices that don't involve infectious pathogens, and then moves to more advanced or mission-focused science in later phases. And so the current science activities at NBAF are at a biosafety level 1 and 2. Those includes clean and non-infectious materials, as well as some moderate risk microbes. So this is similar science to what's done in most universities, colleges, diagnostic laboratories across the country.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the plans for 3, and is it 4 as well?
So NBAF does have a biosafety level 4. So we will eventually get to the biosafety level 3 and 4, but like I said, that's happening in phases. So we want to make sure that we kind of crawl, walk before we run.
Right. Yeah, that sounds safe. It's amazing how long the process is. I didn't really realize that it's been 20 years in the making. That's really amazing.
Right, right. Well, and if you think about it, I mean, the groundbreaking for DHS in this main laboratory facility happened in 2015. So it's a big building and
Yeah.
it's reinforced the concrete and the steel that went into this building. It takes time to build that kind of structure that is tornado sound and just the all the components that go into building this biocontainment facility. So it takes time.
Yeah. So what are some of the key objectives and priorities in safeguarding agriculture and public health? So it's not just about animals, right?
Sure. No, it's not just about animals, but that is our main priority. As we know, with zoonotic pathogens, those certain pathogens can transfer from our livestock and then to our livestock producers, you know, so there is an area that you have to watch out for in that regard. Our focus at NBAF is going to be on the livestock side. So we may study pathogens that have that zoonotic potential, but we will be focusing on what happens on the animal side, if that makes sense. And so I just want to take you mentioned safeguarding agriculture. So there are high containment and maximum containment facilities all across the world, right? And so there are 3 common elements that are in all of those high and maximum containment facilities. One is a biocontainment. So this is a redundancy of engineering controls, the facility design and all. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it took so long. So at NBAF, that includes systems like our effluent decontamination tank. So that decontaminates all the liquid waste. Our thermal tissue autoclave, so that decontaminates our solid waste. And then we have air pressure resistant doors. We have HEPA filters. These are kind of on steroids for the air filtration system that you might have in your own home, but these are much, much bigger. And then tornado revenues. That all falls into the biocontainment side that protects the outside from what goes on in this building. And then there's biosafety. So this includes personal protective equipment, processes, trainings. And so an example of some PPE that we would have here in the lab would be eye protection, lab coats. And in the BSL-4 areas, that's positive pressure suits. And so you see those a lot of times when talking about BSL-4s. And then the third leg to that stool is the biosecurity. So this is an area where we have to balance our communications. So everything that we say or do has to be balanced with the security side of things. We can't reveal too much, but this includes facility security, background checks, clearances, security personnel, and they all have their own sets of processes and procedures. So, but in addition to that, so NBAF kind of takes it up a notch and adds a 4th leg to that stool. And we know that we're human, and the human risk factor is one aspect that we have to plan for. So NBAF is developing a culture that accounts for that. And so it's called a high reliability organization, or HRO. And HROs have a strong safety culture, and they place an emphasis on planning to prevent system failures despite working in this high risk environment. So at NBAF, every employee is encouraged to look for areas where there could be failure, and determine how best to mitigate it. We take that, each employee takes that on themselves, holds ourselves accountable, holds our teammates accountable to looking for those system failures. It's almost like we have a preoccupation with what could go wrong here, and then let's fix it. So we kind of add that fourth leg to the whole biocontainment facility aspects to try to keep our agriculture and our community safe.
Yeah, and that's a neat point too, because I guess if you're empowering everybody at the same level to say you can speak up, and because I know I've heard before in hospitals that one of the things that causes the most risk is when a nurse won't say to the doctor, you're doing something wrong, because they're afraid of that hierarchy. And so is that kind of the plan there, that to make sure everybody's on an equal playing field for reporting?
Yeah, precisely. So anyone, a custodian, a laboratory scientist, anyone can walk into our director's office down the hall and say, hey, I've noticed this problem. Anyone can feel empowered to stop work if we feel like something has the potential to go wrong. And it's developing that secure culture that is just a wonderful place to work. Imagine just a culture where you truly do have freedom of speech and you want to make it a better place that lifts everyone up. So everybody comes together as a team. So it's really rewarding from that aspect too.
Yeah, that's really neat. And in the presentation that we got in Manhattan, you had a researcher and a veterinarian, and some of their stories were just really funny and really awesome. And I know the researcher, she had said about she never realized growing up that when she wanted to be a researcher that she'd have to take so many showers. So can you talk about that? That's something again I never thought of, that
Oh,
would be
sure.
necessary in that role.
Yeah, well, yeah. So our veterinarians, so the way NBAF is set up, there are animal rooms that provide the containment, the primary containment of the animals that will be used in the research studies. And in that area, that serves as the primary containment boundary for that room. And there are certain safety precautions that they have to follow, such as showering out once we become fully operational. That's not necessarily in place right now. So we're still working on some of those details and what that looks like. But if a veterinarian has to enter into that animal room, yes, in some cases they will have to shower out before they go to the next animal room. If that animal room requires shower out, they will have to shower out of that room. So it is multiple showering may be involved. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what are some of the most significant biological threats that you're focused on at this time?
So like I mentioned before, we're starting in phases. So right now, our bio safety levels are at a 1 and a 2. So that's really just the basic science stuff that happens at colleges and universities. So, but when we become fully operational, our mission will include BSL-3 pathogens, such as the ones that are currently in the mission at Plum Island Animal Disease Center in New York. And those three areas, those three diseases that they focus on right there are foot and mouth disease, so FMD, African swine fever, and classical swine fever. So that mission will eventually move to NBAF. And then in addition, so NBAF, because it has this, like, it has some expanded capabilities in the facility, we also will be able to expand our science to include Japanese encephalitis, Rift Valley fever, and some other transboundary animal diseases. And then in addition, what makes NBAF really unique is that it does have the capabilities and the safety and security facilities to host BSL-4 level pathogens. So that's biosafety level 4. That is the highest level of safety and security containment for those zoonotic pathogens, the ones that have the potential to transfer to humans. So of the pathogens that will be included in that mission, that part of the mission, are Nipah virus and Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. This may also include some other emerging pathogens as they come up. So we'll have that ability to make those decisions if need be. So,
all right. Wow. And so how does NBAF collaborate, with the government agencies, research institutions, and you have international partners as well, as you said at the beginning. So how does that work, this spider web of information?
yeah. So both public and private laboratories are working to better understand these diseases and develop some experimental biologics and diagnostic tools, vaccine-related products to mitigate any future outbreaks. So collaboration here at NBAF is a huge priority. Our scientists already have established a lot. And in fact, I'm working on a website to try to explain some of those collaborations. But we partner with academic and industry partners in addition to some other federal partners. Perhaps one of the most exciting aspects of NBAF is our Biologics Development Module, or we call BDM, to give just another acronym out there to you all.
Yeah.
So according to our BDM director, roughly about 95%, 19 out of 20 of pharmaceutical projects and ideas fail before they even reach market.
Wow.
And for biologics, it's roughly 9 out of 10, so 90% fail. And so the BDM is a proof of concept production facility that will work with our NBAF scientists, and they'll be able to take NBAF's basic research and translate it into applied science like vaccines and other disease countermeasures. So they'll be able to think through how those processes translate to the industry. And then they can collaborate with those industry partners and develop that research into an actual veterinary medical countermeasure. Veterinary medical countermeasure that we can use to fight those animal diseases outbreaks all over the world. So we really are an international asset as what we can do here, the collaborations that we're going to bring here, and the facility itself will all come together to create those opportunities between scientists and private pharmaceuticals and animal health companies and our international partners to kind of enhance and expedite that transition of new innovations from research to commercially viable countermeasures.
Right. Awesome. And something that concerns a lot of farmers, and I know before your presentation, a lot of us in the room were talking about this, is the possibility of an escape of a pathogen. Manhattan, Kansas is right in the middle of farm country, right? So people were worried about that. But what measures are in place to ensure that this doesn't occur, or if it did, I know you've talked about a lot of the security already, but that is something. What do you say to people who are worried about that?
Well, yeah, like I said, the 3-leg stool that is part of every biocontainment facility, plus that 4th leg of the HRO, and developing a culture. I understand their concerns. My family, like I said, has an agricultural background, and it is one thing that we are acutely aware. One of the benefits, if you will, is that our NBAF scientists drive past cattle every day on their way to work. So they are constantly reminded there is less of a disconnect. That disconnect that I mentioned in the beginning, that I saw between my, city friends growing up and going to school in Kansas City and my agricultural friends back towards the farm, that's merged here. So it's a constant reminder of just what they are protecting. And not to mention, we come home to our families too. Our families are going to be our top priority as well. And so we want to make sure that we are focused on that HRO, making sure that we stop work if we have a concern. And usually if you look at most instances, it's not just one thing that went wrong, it's multiple things. And so what we aim to do is stop that at every little thing that could possibly go wrong and stop work and address it right then and there, create a process, make sure that we're all trained, make sure that we're following set processes, make sure that those processes work. And so that's one of the key reasons why we're doing the science stand-up phases. So we want to make sure that we are looking at every little step and keeping in mind the full mission going forward as we go through these steps. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I know it was also mentioned that one of the reasons why that location was chosen is because how fast samples can be. If there is an outbreak somewhere in the country, it's quicker to get that sample to the lab, right?
well, it makes sense to be centered in the middle of the country, right? So we are surrounded by our agricultural population, our agricultural industry. And but I would say that collaboration is key. We are located on the western edge of what's called the Kansas City Animal Health Corridor. And so this is the highest concentration in the world of animal health companies and experts that can truly help us use this facility to make those products marketable, to put them in the hands of livestock producers too. So it's kind of all of the things, right?
Yeah, interesting.
There's some huge benefits from the collaboration standpoint there too. So
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And so what's up ahead? What are some of the future plans and the timeline going forward?
yeah, so right now we are going to focus on standing up that science. So as we look through that BSL 1 and 2 side of things, and we practice our procedures and processes using these lower level biosafety practices, science, that kind of stuff. We are going to focus on mastering that. And then as activities, as we meet certain milestones, activities will progress to that biosafety level 3 and 4 as we meet the goals and we are sure that we've met those goals in the safe process of making that transition through the phases. So we are continuing to outline and refine the specifics of those science stand-up processes. And what that transition looks like from NBAF's predecessor at Plum Island. And then, we want to make sure that our facility and the procedures are set up because we will have to undergo some inspections and reviews from the regulatory agencies. So from the operational stand-up side point, that's what we're focused on. What are the steps that need to be done in order for us to get the facility, its people, and the processes ready for that next science phase. So that's kind of our priority. As I say that, our scientists are really active with some of our collaborators. Some of our scientists work in labs that we have rented or borrowed into an agreement with Kansas State University. They are doing some of that work through facilities there. Obviously, they can't do all of that work because otherwise NBAF facilities are needed too. So we are looking forward to when they get to bring that all here, but this at least gives them the jump start in those collaborative opportunities. So
Awesome. So how can people learn more about NBAF and its research initiatives?
Sure. So our website has a wealth of information, and we are always trying to put new updated information up there. If anyone has specific questions that they can't find on their website, we have a public facing email. So our website address is usda.gov/NBAF. And then our email is nbaf@usda.gov. We also have profiles on LinkedIn and X, so USDA_NBAF. And we love to give presentations. As you mentioned with the Agri Women, we do go out and we give outreach presentations. We try to collaborate with media to try to be transparent and get the information that people need and that they want out there and available.
Great. And one last question for you. And you touched at this at the beginning. What are you most passionate about? And that was the communication part. Is that true also in your role every day? What wakes you up and keeps you excited and moving forward in your role?
So I think I love being able to talk about agriculture. I love being able to connect people to information that they didn't know. Kind of open those doors. And I love the concept of what NBAF stands for. We are protecting agriculture. I truly believe in this facility and everything it stands for, even the culture that we're developing. So it makes it a very rewarding place to work. It is a challenge to start a brand new facility. And I don't think there's a single person here that would say otherwise. But the reward and the culture that we're building, and knowing that we're contributing to something that is bigger than ourselves, is just such a rewarding experience. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining me today and explaining all of this. It's really, really such an interesting space in agriculture.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share with your audience, and I wish you well.
Thank you. And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, the links are provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag Spotlight on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Listen Notes. Or if you prefer video, you can find us on Rumble or Telegram channels or really wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like this episode, I would love it if you shared it, and have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to today's Ag Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight. Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening.